So Simmers, welcome back to a brand new video. Welcome in or welcome back, my name is Ro, I make a lot of Sims videos, I hope you enjoy. In today's video, I'm gonna give you a full tutorial / walkthrough of the new feature that comes with Adventure Awaits for custom venues and getaways. The two features are very similar, which means that sometimes they can be a little bit confusing, so I realized it might actually be useful to make a full tutorial that goes through basically both of them step by step and explains the differences between the two, so when you get your hands on the new expansion pack, you actually know how to use it exactly. I just want to quickly make sure that I get the disclaimer out of the way that I'm not being paid to make this video. However, I did get early access to the brand new expansion pack through the EA Creator Network. That also means that in this tutorial, you might see my name floating around the screen because it's a very early access version of the game. That also means it's not final software, so if you're seeing your game, it might look slightly different. Quickly, before we dive into the content, if you plan on buying Adventure Awaits, feel free to use my creator code Rosannatxt at checkout. This is a really nice way of you guys to show support for liking my videos, and it allows me to continue to do content creation as my full-time job. So if you've been using my code, thank you very, very much. And now let's actually dive into custom venues and getaways. I want to start by explaining the difference between the two because I think that's actually going to help you already a lot in making sense of how to use them in your game and also how to approach them when setting them up or playing with them. So a custom venue is a lot. It's basically a place in your world where if you go there, if you visit that specific spot, you as a simmer get to set up everything that happens in that lot. Normally, you can only build the lot, so you can influence what it looks like, but based on the lot type that you select, the game will automatically have Sims spawn in and behave a certain way. With the custom lot type, you can actually fully customize how your Sims behave when they arrive at that lot. You can set up different roles, meaning that not even all Sims behave the exact same way, but you can set up a role for, let's say, a bartender and maybe someone who's gonna clean the dishes, and then your Sim that visits there is just gonna go there to eat. You can even delve into this deeper with not just setting up specific roles for the Sims that are visiting, but you can even set up an entire schedule with time slots so that throughout the time of day, your Sims will display different behaviors. This behavior can even be set up per role, meaning that you essentially get full customizability over the behavior of your Sims in specific locations. This way, the Sims team doesn't have to add multiple lot types to the game because you now have infinite freedom to create whatever you want, basically. Moving on to the getaways, they do use the same scheduler menu, and I think that's the biggest confusing part, is because it looks similar, or the UI in the game looks similar, and therefore it might be confusing which of the two you're looking at. However, a getaway is actually scheduled from a Sim's calendar, so a custom venue is actually adjusted in build mode, and then while you're building, you can actually go into the custom venue menu and you can change the schedule. If you want to set up a getaway, you actually do that by having a Sim and opening their calendar, and then in their calendar scheduling a getaway. A getaway can actually be scheduled at any lot, so it doesn't have to be a custom lot. You can go to a restaurant, you can go to your grandparents' house, it can literally be any lot in the world. This means that the schedule for the getaway also functions separately from the custom venue. So you don't have to schedule a getaway in a custom venue to have that extensive scheduling feature. If you plan a getaway from a Sim's calendar, you get the same or a very similar scheduling menu as you will see in the custom venues, and this allows you to set up different roles, different time slots, and you can use presets. And this is, I think, where the overlap is the biggest. The presets that you use for custom venues can also be used for getaways and vice versa. Meaning that if you create a preset for a specific lot, let's say a kids camp, and every single time someone goes to that specific lot, they will follow a schedule. If you want to plan a getaway, you can also apply that same schedule to that getaway. Meaning that you can basically plan that same kids camp, but maybe at a completely different lot, without having to completely recreate that schedule. So to quickly summarize, the custom venue is a location, and the getaway is a schedule for your Sim or a group of Sims specifically. So now that I've actually covered what the difference is, let's actually hop into game so that I can show you and walk you through the menu step by step, because there's quite a lot of variables in this menu, and it can be a bit overwhelming if you see it for the first time. So if you want to create a custom venue, you're gonna load into a lot in build mode. So basically on your map view, you're gonna click on the lot and you're gonna click build mode. Then from there, you're gonna go and open the venue info menu here in the top corner, and here is where you can select all your lot types, and you can see our brand new lot type, the custom venue. Once you have custom venue selected, there is actually a button that says modify schedule preset. That's the most important part for now. Other than that, there is actually very little requirements for a custom venue. So you need to have a sink, a waste disposal, and a toilet. That's just simply so that when Sims visit this lot, they can actually take care of their primary needs, and that if any dishes or trash spawns, you can actually clean it up. But other than that, there are no requirements. So the requirements or the behavior of your sim is entirely up to you. Once you open the schedule preset, this is what you'll see. Right now, there is no schedule, there is no preset, nothing assigned to this custom lot. I specifically removed everything to show you exactly what it looks like when you start building your own first custom venue. So we can either select something from a preset. So in this menu, there is a bunch of presets that already ship with the game. This is to make it easy for you so that if you just want to dive into gameplay immediately, you don't have to set up your entire own custom schedule and everything. However, for today's episode, we're actually going to create a new preset because I feel like it would be more useful to show you every step of the way. So in this list, you're going to click on create new, and basically this is what is going to pop up. I'm going to walk you through this menu step by step. I know a lot of buttons just popped up, but it's actually not that difficult. Something that is important to know is that you can create different roles. This basically allows you to set different types of sims or different roles literally spawning into your lot. If you don't really care about that, you can just set one role and just call it custom role, and then when we're going to build the rest of the schedule, that is all you're going to see. However, let's pretend that we are actually making a library, and in that library we want to have guests and a librarian, because the librarian actually needs to take care of things in the library. So we're going to click this custom role that it already created, and we're going to change the name. Then we can actually select how many sims we would like to have of this type of this role. So do we want one librarian or two, or maybe even 8 is I believe the maximum. Let's say that for this role we need 2 librarians. Like, it would be nice if we have a big library that 2 of them show up. Then here you can not assign sims because we're actually in infinite build mode, but if you're building from live mode, you can actually assign sims to this as well. So let's say that you are playing in a save file and you have one sim that you very specifically want to show up as the librarian. You can even assign this role already to a specific sim. So every single time you visit that lot, that sim will get selected as the librarian. Next to that, you can actually click this button, which means that if you select that, this role will also get uploaded to your role library, which I'm going to show you in a second. That is basically if you feel like this is a role that's going to return quite often. So if you feel like you're going to create a bunch of community lots and every single time the visitor role is going to be very similar, you can call it this role the visitor, and then you can actually upload that role to your library. Once we got all like the basic things out of the way, let's look at the details. And the details are very similar to the club menu that you might know from Get Together. Here you can select criteria for this role. So when can a sim get this role? Is there like an age group that they need to be in? Is there a certain skill that they need to have? Can they be married or single? Or basically all the things that you can also set for clubs. So sometimes they have to be from a specific world. Sometimes they are an occult, yes or no, maybe only specific occults. All these kinds of things can be set up here. You can set up 5 different criteria, meaning that you can get rather specific with the type of sim you want to have selected for this role. If you pre-assign a sim to this, you don't really need to look at this at all. If you say, I want these 2 sims to always show up as a librarian, the only thing is if those 2 sims die, the game will find replacements. Those might have to live up to certain criteria, but at that point, you might as well also manually override it and add 2 new sims. But just know that if you want the game to randomly assign 2 sims, but you want them to actually only show up if they have X amount of criteria, that is where you can set it up. Then for the activities is basically you can set up what the default activity for this role will be. So let's say for our librarian, they can mentor people. They can be friendly to people, I think. I think it would be nice if they fix objects, because if things in the library break, like computers and stuff, I would like them to fix it. Or you know what? Maybe we can set up a separate role for a handyman who's only going to do that and like maybe clean. We can do the clean and the fix things in the handyman role. And maybe the librarians can also read themselves while they're, you know, waiting for other people. Let's set that up. Let's save it over existing role because we basically opened this specific role. If you want to create a new role, so if you like open a role and then you adjust things and you want to save it as a new role, obviously. But in this case, we can rename that role. We were gonna create a handyman. The handyman definitely needs to have handiness, at least like plus level 2. So then we wanted to set up cleaning. Where was it again? Fixing things, fix objects. There we go. I don't really care who this is gonna be, and we only need one of them. So we're gonna save that as a new role. Then let's see, what are we gonna do for the other one? We wanted a visitor. Visitors can be anyone. And for visitors, I want 8 Sims. I might actually make 2 groups of visitors so that we have even more Sims actually visiting this lot. So for the visitors, I want them to read. I want them to maybe also be friendly to each other. I want them to maybe program, like use the computers. Maybe they can view art, like very often there is like art in libraries as well. And maybe they can write. I feel like those are all very good activities for a visitor. Also something that I haven't actually showed you guys, but over here there is a button that says customize role outfit. So let's say you want your librarian to always look like Agnes Crumplebottom. You can actually go in here and then you can, this is very similar to the outfit picker for events. So you can either say like, oh, for everyone who goes to the library, I want them to always show up in their everyday outfit or in their formal outfit or maybe in their sleepwear. Or you can say, I want them to always dress in a specific style or color. Or you can actually fully customize it and then you click on this one and then per age category and gender, you can actually set up the entire outfit yourself. And then every single time a sim will spawn in, they will change their clothes in this outfit. The best part about this is you can define it by role, but you can even later on define it per time slot. So if you wanted your Sims to wear bathing suits in the morning in the library and then change into their sleepwear in the afternoon, you could actually set that up. I don't know why you would want that, but I'm just trying to share with you how flexible this feature is. In our case, I don't really care what our visitors wear. For the librarian, it could actually be fun to set her outfit to be like her formal wear. Like I said, there's also a role library, so if you feel like you don't really have any inspiration on what kind of roles you would like for this custom venue, you can just go in here and there is like a bunch of things. There's an artist and a bartender and like a type of sim, like a brainy sim would be a sim that prefers to do activities that, you know, practice their cognitive skills. And then there is like an artistic sim that will practice more like painting skills and stuff like that. There is a gamer, a friendly sim, a fitness trainer. There's like so many presets and they all have pre-assigned activities that make sense for that role. If you're building a custom venue and you don't really have any inspiration, or you just want to be quicker about making something, like let's say you're building a party venue, there's just a pre-assigned role DJ available in the role library, so that makes it so much quicker to create things. Let's actually create a second visitor role, because that way we will actually have more visitors. There is a maximum of 20 Sims per lot, so you can't actually create more roles than 20 Sims. But this way we actually will have 19, because we have 2 times the 8 visitors, which is 16. Then we have 2 librarians, and then we have 1 handyman, basically meaning that you could even add an additional role to the lot. Something that would be super easy is if we just go in here. We have to choose a different name though, because visitor already exists in our library. So let's actually call it a library visitor. And then we can do this. And then let's say we save it. We're going to save it over the existing role because we didn't actually change anything. And then now in here, we should have the library visitor, and we should say add to current roles, successfully added. Let's go. And now we have 2 library visitors, and this we can call just library visitor 2. There we go. Save over existing role. Maybe we can call this 1, because that way we could technically even set up different behaviors for both of the groups. So let's say that library visitor 1 is going to be like a very nice group of people and they are always friendly. And then library visitor 2 is going to be a group of like meanies that are trying to pick a fight. You can even use his roles for storytelling purposes if you wanted to. Now that we've covered the role setup, let's actually go into the schedule. So right now our preset is actually named custom preset. So let's change that name to library. Now we can actually save this preset. So as soon as we've set up the entire schedule, we can save the preset so that it actually shows up in our list later down the line. So that if we build another library in another world, we can quickly just assign the preset to the lot and everything is ready to go. So from here, you actually can build a schedule. So like I've already explained, this is basically just a timetable or the schedule that your Sims will follow when they arrive at the lot. Every single time slot needs to be 3 hours. I think this is the biggest restricting factor. Other than that, you have all the freedom in the world, but you need to make sure that there is always 3 hours per time slot, meaning that if we want to add a second time slot, this one starts at 6 a.m. We have to schedule it at 9 a.m. And if I schedule it at 8 a.m., it actually makes this time slot earlier. Like it will force the 3-hour time slot. So if we have this one at 6, that one will automatically move to 9. Like just keep that in mind if you're building your schedule, because I noticed initially myself just kind of making all the time slots and then later down the line realizing that those adjust to keep that 3-hour block. So just keep that in mind. Other than that, from here on out, you basically have everything that you need to set up your schedule. So per time slot, you can set up everything. So for the library, let's start at 9 a.m. And then per time slot, you can set up one main activity. And a main activity is basically the single most important thing that Sims will focus on, like completely regardless of their role. So if at a library, you want Sims to generally just be friendly to each other, other than that, they can do all their own things, but most importantly, you want people to just interact and talk to each other, then you can set be friendly as the main interaction. If that is all you set up, so you set the time slot and the main activity, basically every single role that spawns in at that time slot will follow that main activity and will basically fall back on their default behaviors that you've set up for them in the role library. So if you set up that the handyman should be fixing things, they will revert back to that schedule or like those activities because you didn't set up anything for them. But maybe in this library, you want the handyman in the morning to also make smoothies for the guests because that's just something that they can do. You can actually set that up, and this way during this time slot, they will do their default behaviors. So as you can see, as soon as I selected the role, it automatically grabbed their behaviors from that I've set up as like a default, but we can add things to it. And then you'll see this little icon over here that basically shows that you have adjusted that role for that time slot. So it gives you a visual indicator that that is not the default for that role so that you can easily scan and see where you've made any changes. You can also reset the default role activity. So let's say you clicked something and you're like, actually don't really want that. You can just reset it to the default. Or if you make any adjustments, let's say you want the handyman to be really flirty in the morning, you can also save it to the role and then it will override it. So that let's say you're setting it up here and you're like, oh, actually, you know what? I want all my handymen to be flirty at all times. You can also save that back to the role library. I'm hoping this is making sense because I feel like what the Sims team did is they essentially gave you many different ways to set up all the roles and the behaviors, but therefore it can also be a little bit overwhelming. As you can see, it also says total Sims 1 out of 20 because we've now selected the handyman, but actually we want all of the roles to show up. So we want all the visitors to show up. And in this case, because I think all the roles are actually pretty good, for in the morning time slot, this is fine. Just because this menu can get a bit cluttery, I can recommend that as soon as you're happy with a time slot, you actually close it. But right before we close it, I want to point out that over here, you can also customize the outfit. Remember when I said that you can technically have your Sims wear bathing suits in the morning and then have them wear their formal wear or their sleepwear in the afternoon? This is where you can customize the outfit per time slot. So we close that one because that time slot is actually done, and then we can click on add another time slot. It will automatically add all of the roles from your previous time slot because the game will just assume that if they were there in the previous time slot, you probably want them here again. If you don't, you can just remove them here, of course, with the little X in the corner. It automatically grabbed 12 because that's the 3-hour gap between the time slots. And actually for the main activity, I want people to have food. Because, you know, once it's 12 p.m., people are hungry. And I think that is a perfect time for the handyman to actually serve some food, like serve a meal. And that is a perfect time for the librarian to also serve a meal, maybe. Like they can both help out on that. They can make sure everyone in the library is going to get food. And then for the library visitors in that time, I think they're not going to work. So we can delete those activities. We can keep the be friendly and the view art, but we're actually going to add the thing for eating. There we go. So now all of my visitors will actually eat in this time slot. That means that at 12 p.m., everyone's going to go eat and have food. And then we can add like another time slot, which I think is just going to go back to the default. Like after lunch, everyone's going to go back to their regular day-to-day and everyone is going to just like, you know, go back to work and go back to their computers and go back to their reading. And I think that way we're going to have a very natural flow in the library where it's going to feel like when your Sims are visiting, there's actually like a lunchtime and everyone goes and takes a lunch break. That is basically everything that you need to know. Once your entire schedule is set up and you like what it looks like, I would say that you can save this as a new preset. From now on, you'll actually notice that the library will show up. As you can see, we have these icons over here. This is actually the Max's logo. I had no clue. I was informed of this by other simmers because I was like, what is this icon? I don't understand. As far as I understand, the rainbow ones are ones that are applied in the world currently, and the other ones are not applied in the world currently. However, the ones that don't have an icon from Max's are your own. For your own, you can't see if they've been used anywhere. So I'm not really sure what the point of the icons is. I don't think I would have missed them if they hadn't been there, but I just wanted to make sure that you guys know when you see this what it actually means. Another important thing to know for your presets is that these are save file dependent. So if you save your library here, you can actually use this preset in every single one of your lots in this save file. If you want to get this preset to another save, what you're gonna have to do is you're basically gonna have to make sure that this specific lot has this preset now. So now that we've actually applied it, it has the library preset set up for this specific custom venue. And then we're gonna have to upload this lot to the library, which is something that I can't do in this build of the game. I don't have access to the library. But what we would have to do is you would have to upload this. The Sims team has already confirmed that the custom venues do upload with their schedule, meaning that if you then download it from your own gallery into another save file, you can basically go into the scheduler menu and then it will give you this preset. And then from here, you can actually say that you want to save it as a new preset. I would love to see a version of the game where they actually allow you to upload the presets for the venues on its own to the gallery without actually uploading the entire lot and just being able to like quickly download presets into your save file. But I don't assume that's something that is coming. I'm just like putting a wish out in the universe now, because as a person who loves to build, I can already see myself creating a bunch of custom venues, and it's just going to be really annoying that I'm going to have to create the same custom presets every single time, or have to do that like really long workaround of using the gallery and an actual lot to get it into my other save. However, with that, we've actually covered everything there is to know about the custom venues and how to schedule it. So now I'm going to show you how to schedule a getaway. So for that, we're actually going to have to load into a household. So I have loaded into the household that I've been using for a lot of gameplay testing. So let's actually go ahead and schedule a getaway. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have to navigate to the calendar over here, and then you're going to have to select the day where you want the getaway to start first. So let's say that we're going to go on Monday. So tomorrow we're going to go to a getaway. My sim really doesn't want to go to work. She wants to go on like a nice fitness retreat. Then you're going to go in the calendar and click on the schedule getaway. This is going to bring up the getaway planner. And at first it looks completely different to the scheduler that we just saw in the custom venues. So first you're going to pick a location. And like I said, you can basically pick any location you want. So it doesn't really matter. And for this video, I'm gonna actually schedule 2 different getaways to show you what happens if you schedule a getaway on a lot that does not have a preset applied, and what happens if we schedule a getaway on that lot that we literally just made, like the library. So let's actually start by scheduling something on a playground that I've built. The speed build for this will be coming out either tomorrow or the day after. So if you don't want to miss that, make sure to subscribe to my channel because it's a really fun build. I'm actually really proud of it. But if you want to go to the playground and you want to go there for 3 nights, the only downside is there's no beds on my playground, so this wouldn't be a great getaway, but you can technically schedule it if you want. You can also choose what time the getaway should start. So let's say that when we wake up, we're gonna have some breakfast, and at 10 a.m. we're gonna go to the playground. And I want actually our getaway to end at maybe like 7 p.m. That would be nice. I could actually select one night, and then that way I believe your Sims will just stay overnight once, and then there's no bed, but I guess you can survive that if you wanted to. So let's for now go for 1 night. And one of the coolest features of this getaway is that you can actually make it recurring. So you can say, I want this recurring weekly, let's say on Monday, because every single Monday, I want my sim to go to this specific getaway. A scenario where I can already see this be super useful is if you have, let's say you're playing in a legacy save file and you have children and the children have grandparents. You could technically set up a getaway for your children every single weekend. So it would be recurring every Saturday, where on Saturday morning, your kids will go on a getaway at their grandparents' house. So in this list, you can select the grandparents' house. It's actually really nice if you filter on the lot types and you filter on residential. It will only show the houses of Sims that you know. And then there's a separate option for residentials of Sims that you don't. But if you select the residential of Sims that you know, that is like an easy way to find maybe the house of the grandparents. But then every single weekend, your kids can go there. And with the getaway schedule, you can set up what your kids are supposed to do when they're there. Maybe like build skills, do their homework, so that when they come home on Sunday evening, they've actually done the things that you want them to, even though you sent them away on a getaway. Once you have actually picked the location, the duration, and basically whether it's recurring, yes or no, you can actually go into the scheduler. And this is where it becomes very familiar because it's basically the exact same setup as we just walked through for the custom venues. Here you can also select the presets, so the library preset actually shows up as well. That's why I was saying earlier, if you make a preset for a venue and you save it, you can later also use that same preset for a getaway. However, in this case, my sim is actually going to go on a little fitness retreat. And as you can see for this fitness retreat, we have all the roles set up, we have the entire schedule set up, and basically this is set up the exact same way as that we did earlier for the custom venue. So if you want to schedule a getaway that's completely custom, let's say you do want to schedule that sleepover, you can also create a new one. You're going to say, yes, I want to overwrite the current schedule. And here you can again select like all of the roles that you want included. And because you're scheduling a getaway for this role, let's say that this is the sleepover sim. So this is the sim that's going to like go away for a sleepover. You're going to save this and then you're going to save it over the existing role. You can actually select maybe that you want your husband to go as well. So you can manually select which sims should actually go and fulfill this specific role when this getaway starts. This is, let's call it a sleepover. There we go, because we're gonna go do a sleepover on the playground because that makes total sense. And then for this role, the sleepover sim, we did not set up any of the activities. So as you can see here, it doesn't fill any of the activities by default because the role is basically empty. So we can also just configure it here. You don't have to set it up in the roles menu. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna do archery. That's good at 6 a.m. That's like our main task. And next to that, we're gonna be friendly and we're gonna bike and we're gonna build creative skills. And I think that's actually nice. Next to that, at 9 a.m., our main activity is going to be that we're gonna drink coffee. Other than that, we're not gonna do much else. And then at 12 p.m., I think it's time for us to like have some food. As you can see, I'm basically just making up a schedule on the go because the purpose of this video is not to give you great ideas for good getaways. However, I do plan on making a video that is going to go into potential ideas for custom venues and getaways. So if you're interested in that, make sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss that video. But basically from here, you can set up the entire schedule just like we did for the custom venue. So that's also why I'm brushing over it a little bit now because I literally did the in-depth explanation of how to use this in the earlier part of the video. Once you've done that, you can also select the rules. And this is something that is there for the getaways, but not for the venues. If you want to do like the challenge rules that come with this pack, you're going to have to do that through a getaway. And from here, there are a couple of very simple ones. For instance, the activity shuffle. What that basically does is if you select this one, every single time that your sim goes on this specific getaway, the activities will be shuffled so that it doesn't get repetitive. You can also, for instance, make it harder for yourself to play here. So you can do hardcore mode and that way all of your sim's needs will go down way faster. You can also do elimination challenges. So a romantic elimination could, for instance, be that your sims need to build the most romance with another sim, otherwise they get eliminated. You know, the Love Highland competition that was teased in the trailer. But you can also do player choice elimination, which basically means that every single day by the end of the day, you as the player get to decide who needs to go home, which could be great if you're a content creator making content where your viewers can help you pick which one should go home. And you could actually do like a sim popularity contest where your viewers get to vote out who needs to go home and stuff like that. Something that is important is if you actually select some of the things, specifically the elimination ones, an additional menu will pop up. So for instance, with the player elimination, you can actually set up which roles are eligible for elimination. In this case, we only have one role, so you can only select this one. Obviously, if you are hosting a romantic competition and you have like dateable sims and sims that are trying to romance them, you want the sims that are trying to romance sims to be able to get eliminated, but you don't want the dateable sims to get eliminated because then you won't have any candidates to romance. So with this, you can kind of customize which roles are eligible to get romanced and which roles are eligible to get eliminated, basically. Next to that, you can also say when they get eliminated, and you can click this and then it will basically toggle between two things. One is the lowest score, which is basically the sim that made the least progress on that specific day. And the other one is the lowest progress, and that is like the total progress that they've made over all the days that they're there. And then that sim gets sim gets eliminated. If that is confusing, I would highly recommend hovering over this button and like reading the little text that pops up, because I feel like they explained it quite clearly. Another thing that is important to mention with the getaways is that if you're planning your getaway, you'll actually be able to see the cost of your getaway. So you'll see the daily cost and you'll see the amount of days and then the total cost. Basically, the cost of your getaway is calculated based on the lot value, I believe. So in this case, visiting this place for 1 day will cost you 445 simoleons. And then because we're only going 1 day, it will actually have the total costs are just 445. However, if I change this to 4 nights, that amount goes up. Or if I completely change the lot, that also changes. So this lot is empty, so it only costs you 14 simoleons to visit. Then I promised that I would also quickly show you what happens if you schedule a getaway at a custom venue where you've already set up the schedule. So let's plan a second getaway, and let's actually pick the custom venue, and then let's pick our library. I very much abused one of the builds as a library, but we're gonna go here for 2 nights, and it's gonna start at like 7 a.m. in the morning, although the library opened at 9. Let's go for 9, and the end time is gonna be 6 p.m. And then over here, as you can see, because there is already a schedule applied to that lot, you don't have to set up anything here. So it technically basically recognizes it as, hey, there's already a schedule. So instead of showing up as empty over here, it will actually show this. You can immediately see who is assigned to which role. So for instance, my sim is now assigned as a librarian. Let's say that I really don't want that. Like, I think that's kind of silly. I want these 2 sims to show up as librarians. The handyman is, I like this handyman. That's a good handyman. And then for library visitors, I want actually my sims to show up as library visitors. So let's pick like a bunch of other sims. If we don't manually pick everyone, basically what the game will do is it'll just spawn in some random extra sims. But let's also pick myself. Now I'll make sure that if we actually go here for the getaway, it takes the right sims in the right roles. Next to that, if you actually have a custom venue where there is a pre-assigned schedule, but you want to use that specific venue for something else, you can go in here and actually change it. So if we wanted to, we could actually go to fitness retreat. It's going to ask you, are you sure? Do you want to change it? Yes, I do, without any savings. And now what it's going to do is if we go there with this group on this day, even though that custom venue has a pre-assigned schedule, it's going to be overwritten for the duration of that getaway, meaning that the getaway schedule or the Sims schedule is technically leading if you manually override the default schedule at the custom lot. I hope that makes sense. Let me know in the comments down below if you have any additional questions about this, because I did my best to explain it as clear as I could, but I can imagine that with all the terms of like getaways and custom venues and stuff and the scheduler, it can sometimes be a little bit confusing, but I'm hoping that this tutorial already helped you a lot in figuring out what the two do and how they sort of interact with each other. I do think that actually covers my entire tutorial for the custom venues and the getaways. If this video was helpful to you, please toss it a cheeky like. That way the tutorial finds its way to more people, hopefully helping more people setting this feature up in the game. If you want to really go above and beyond in supporting me, drop your favorite emoji in the comments, or just comment a question if you have one, of course. Subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss any of my future videos. And if you really want to help out, consider using my EA creator code Rosannatxt at checkout when purchasing this pack or any other Sims pack in the future. And with all of that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye everyone!